Hello, I'm Dr. Manal Shehabi. I am academic visitor at St. Anthony's College, University of Oxford, founding director of Shia Research and Advisory, and senior research fellow at the Oxford Institute for Energy Studies. I think we cannot achieve a just transition without first making sure that the environment is part of social policy as well as economic policy and fiscal and energy policy. We need an integration of policies across these different areas. The policies have to be really integrative so that they integrate the different parts of society, but also we need to have evidence-based policy making. Just transition is looking at different people who are losing their jobs or will be coming to new markets and issues of social justice. And if we don't really examine where the negative impacts will be happening, how can we then solve them? So I think it's going to be we cannot achieve energy transition without actually knowing who's impacted negatively and then from there designing policies to mitigate those negative impacts accordingly. Building an environmental agenda that benefits both current generations in the region as well as future generations requires also integrating various elements of policymaking to make it long-term, not only short-term, but also very representative of the different stakeholders and different people. Now, most people who are affected by the environmental degradation or climate change are the elderly, for example, people who are marginalized, people who are in vulnerable situations, including refugees, people in conflict areas. All of these people are often not represented in policymaking on the environment. At the same time, for future generations, the youth who are very active in climate issues and showing the climate justice issues arising from climate change and environmental degradation, they're also often not included in policymaking for the future. So to have a good environmental agenda, I think there needs to be a really inclusive dialogue and understanding between not only the policymaking bodies, but also the individuals who are actually impacted by environmental issues, and at all levels, including women, including the youth, including elderly, indigenous populations, and people who also will be, whose jobs will be impacted by transitioning to green jobs or green industries that we need for the protection of the environment. And for also achieving a good environmental agenda, we also need to also have more of an important dialogue between not only research, not only policymakers, but also research institutions, people who work on the ground, and to really make it a long-term process that as well takes into account economic issues and social justice issues that are, of course, very much linked to the environment as well. Local networks have a huge wealth of knowledge on the ground and experience and access to people and access to data that people like myself don't have access to. And I particularly like to look at research that supports policy making as well as supporting the development and economic and resource sustainability in the region. And for my work, I would benefit greatly from access to local communities, the dialogue with them, the awareness creation that can be developed, but also on understanding really what their needs are, and also how then the work that I do can then also benefit them in the larger context of the region for economic and environmental sustainability, and of course socioeconomic welfare in general.